Hi. Welcome to 2024. Okay, it's the middle of January, so it's been 2024 for a few weeks now. I'm going to go over my reading goals for the year. The reason why I didn't film this video until the middle of January is because I wanted to make sure that I would stay consistent with a few of my goals for at least a couple weeks just to test it out to see if I could stick to it, because I'm an Aries, which means I start things and literally never finish them.
Consistency is key.
I'm going to focus on trying to stay consistent with these goals. I'm not doing a best and worst of 2023 because I read 270 books last year, which
I know.
it's not normal for anyone, not even me. I was going through it last year, and you know how people binge eat or binge drink when they're very emotional or they're just feeling overwhelmed? Yeah, I binge read when I feel really anything. But we are just going to skip past 2023 and completely move on with 2024. I do have a post on my Instagram with my top 10 books that I absolutely love. You can check that out if you want to see which were my favorite books, but to go over everything else would be just too much work, and I'm not going through 270 books to do that. So the first two reading goals that I have for 2024 go hand in hand. They are a result of my reading year in 2023. The first goal is to read 150 books, which is my Goodreads goal. And then the second goal is to slow the fuck down with my reading and actually take my time with my books. Last year, I feel like I learned a lot about my reading tastes, and I feel more confident that I can pick books that I am genuinely going to enjoy now that I've read so much. I know what I don't like, I know what I do like, and I also know the do's and don'ts of what I want to take into my reading experience for this year. I goaled myself at 250 books last year, which was my fault, okay? I'm very competitive with myself, so really I don't have anyone to blame for the amount that I read last year except me. I'm not that girl. I don't want to be that girl anymore. You know, I want to take my time with reading. I want to actually enjoy a book, savor it, take notes. I want to be a sponge. I want to absorb the book and just become the book. There were so many books that I read last year that because I read at the speed that I did and how much I read, I don't remember a lot of the books that I read. And I don't want that. I want to have a memorable experience with each book that I read. Good or bad, doesn't matter. I just want to have a memorable experience with the books that I read. I want to read more with intention. I also noticed with the amount that I read last year, just from like my Instagram posts of reviews on books that I read and previous wrap-ups that I did on my channel, I don't talk about books well, and I want to be able to talk about books well. I think I might be the only person who's like lowered their goal instead of like increasing it, because I did too much last year. I can admit that. I really did. 150 books I know is still a lot, but for me, that's a very feasible goal where I can feel like I'm reading enough to where I'm consuming as much as I can, but also able to read it at a much slower pace, if that makes sense. This past few weeks in January, I have been slowing down. I have like notebooks that I'm actually taking notes of every book that I read now. I'm retaining all of that I'm reading in these books, and I'm having a much better experience. So those are the first two goals that are definitely my priority for this year. Okay, the next goal that I have is to have all of the books that I read. So out of the 150 books that I'm goaling myself to read, 50% of them are to be by authors of color. I goaled myself to hit 50% last year, and I believe I hit 47. This year I want to make it 50%. There are certain genres that I read, like romance, especially romance, and fantasy, where there still could be a lot more improvement in the amount of authors of color that get published. Not just published, but just like hyped up. A lot of the books that are popular on social media, that are being promoted by publishers, that are getting attention on TikTok and all of that, I feel like most of them are by white authors. Last year, I did have to do a lot more research and a lot more digging into finding more books in those genres by authors of color. That could also be on my part, that I'm not looking hard enough. I need to do better, but also the publishing industry needs to do better as well, you know? 50-50. I think to help with this, I want to read more translated work. I read, not a lot, but I read a good handful amount of translated works last year, and I really enjoyed those books that I read. Some of them were misses, but most of them were hits, and I definitely want to continue that this year. I want to read more translated works, and I think that will help with diversifying my reading more. The next reading goal that I have is to read more nonfiction books that are not memoirs. I made a goal for myself to read at least one nonfiction book a month last year, and I'm happy to say I hit that goal. But like 98% of those books were memoirs. I love memoirs. I'm not a fan of nonfiction books that like self-help or like those finance books or like Atomic Habits. Like those books to me read like textbooks. I think I found a topic that I am definitely interested in learning more, not in a textbook self-help kind of way, but just educating myself more on the topic, and that's being a woman that's child-free. I am a child-free woman. I don't want kids, don't ever want kids, never have wanted kids, never going to have kids. I have been doing a lot more research and I've found some good nonfiction books that I think are going to be interesting from perspectives of women that are child-free, that aren't child-free, and books that just explore the topic of like what motherhood means. I got this book, Regretting Motherhood by Orna Donath. This is not like a self-help book at all. It's literally just research and like testimonies and stories and experiences by women that have to do with not just this topic, but just like society putting all these pressures on women to be mothers and everything that has to do with that. I think this is going to be an interesting topic for me to read about with nonfiction that is not memoirs, but also doesn't feel like a textbook, you know? So that's another goal that I have for this year. The next goal that I have is to read at least 2 classics. Now, this is a goal that is not very concrete. Out of all the goals, this might be the one that I either A, don't accomplish, or B, get rid of entirely, depending on my reading experience. I was never really into classics. However, I think that is because when I was in elementary school and high school and I had to read classics for certain classes, I absolutely hated it. I hated that reading experience, mainly because I was forced to read those books and take notes and study it like a textbook and then be tested on it. And it wasn't a book that I would have chosen for fun or a book that I did choose for fun. Now that I'm older and I'm able to understand probably more of the serious themes in the book, the tones of the book, without having to take a test at the end of it, I might actually enjoy it. You know, I might actually enjoy reading a classic, but who's to say? I do want to start off with A Picture of Dorian Gray because I've heard a lot of good things about this, and depending on my experience with this book, it will determine whether or not I continue with classics. So I'm hoping I have a good time. I'm hoping I have a good experience, but I'm giving classics one chance. One chance to impress me, to give me everything that it can give. If it doesn't go the way that I want it to go, she's out. The next goal that I have is another more lenient and kind of fun one. That is to read more graphic novels and manga. I have 2 full shelves full of graphic novels and manga. Some of them are completed and have been turned into animes that I've already watched, and so I know what happens. I just like to have the manga, but most of them haven't read or watched. So but I've heard so many good things about it, and I have a lot of people in my life that either A, read manga, or B, watch anime, and all of these are recommendations from them. I'm thinking that manga and graphic novels will be a really great like break and pause in between reading heavy series, heavy novels. I can take a break and read like a fun, cute, very easygoing manga or graphic novel. I don't have to, you know, analyze it critically or think about it seriously like it's manga. And I do have 2 graphic novels that I did start like years ago that I never continued with, and that's Saga and Monstrous. So I started those. I don't remember anything because it's been so long since I read them, but I know new volumes of both of these graphic novels came out either last year or this year. Those are my priorities. And then I want to finish the manga Wotakoi because I know that's completed and it's only 6 volumes. That's gonna be a really easy manga series for me to get through, and if you guys have any recommendations, let me know. Although I don't need more recommendations, actually, don't send them to me because I already have a shelf full of books that I haven't read. The last 2 goals that I have for 2024 are actually probably just as important as the first 2. The second to last goal that I have is like, I'm done with the overconsumption. I'm done with buying books that I haven't read yet. I have an extremely excessive physical TBR because I just gave into the hype. I gave into the overconsumerism last year and just bought books without reading them. I bought special editions of books that I haven't even read yet. Books are just fucking expensive these days. Books, special editions, hardcovers are way too overpriced, I think. And then you have all these special editions from book boxes that come out. Barnes & Noble has their own Barnes & Noble special edition. Like, there are just way too many options, but I'm done. I need to stop buying books that I haven't read yet, and I need to start reading books before I buy them. I need all the amount of self-control that I have to be put into this one goal because my wallet is demanding it. Also, to go with that, I'm no longer buying new releases of series or like new debut novels of series because there are so many series that are already completed that I still have yet to read that are on my shelves. So I'm prioritizing all the series that are completed. I also am an impatient person. I don't like waiting for the next book in a series because the time that it takes between like book 1 to book 2, years. And by that time I've forgotten everything that's happened. But I'm focusing on series that already exist, that are already completed, that I can binge through and read in one go. Overconsumption, she's out this year. Last but not least, this is going to sound like a goal that is just like common sense, but I'll explain. And that is to read books that I want to read and not what's popular on social media. I know that sounds simple. I know it sounds very like, yeah.
Duh.
But when you are someone who is active on Bookstagram or BookTok or watch BookTube, the way that you are influenced to buying or just adding books to your TBR, it is so hard to ignore that. I tell my friends this all the time. I'm the most easily influenced person I know. There are different communities on each of the social media. Like there's the people that read lit fic and classics. There's the people that read just fantasy and sci-fi. There are the romance girlies. Last year, I noticed that in each of those genres, every post that I saw, every video that I saw, it was just the same 7 or 8 books getting recycled as recommendations over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where I was like, okay, let me just read this fucking book because why is everyone fucking recommending it? 9 times out of 10, those books were either very mid or not my cup of tea at all. And I knew that. I knew reading the synopsis, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be for me. But I read it because so many, like everyone just kept like hyping these books up. And I'm no longer doing that. I do fall victim to really cute covers, really cute pictures of books, a really good TikTok that teases the book. Like I said, I'm the most easily influenced person that I fucking know. But I'm gonna focus on the books that I actually have on my TBR, that I already am starting, or already in the middle of, already want to complete. And I'm not backing down on that. All right, so those are all my goals for 2024. I have a gut feeling that I'm either going to eliminate half of these goals by like the middle of the year, or I'm not going to accomplish most of them. And that's not me being pessimistic, that's me being realistic. That's me knowing myself. But who knows, I might add a few more goals down the line, or I might accomplish a few of them before the middle of the year, before the end of the year. We'll see. I'm not holding myself too hard on these goals. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.